Hey everyone and welcome. We're going to get stuck right into the mixed media. So we got this art wedge that we got from Vicki Boutin in the kit this month, and I'm just using the 3 paints that we got in that Sunny Days Maggie Holmes package of acrylic paints as well. So on that art wedge there is different sides. There's some thick, like wide sides, some thinner sides, some even textured edges, but I'm just using one of the thin sides and I'm just scraping the paint on. So you can see, just using the paint straight from the bottle, squeezing a bit onto the wedge, and then scraping it onto the paper. I'm just doing it in a random fashion, sort of thinking that my photo will be in the middle, but it'd be nice to have it all poking around, having all the colour everywhere. And I like how this changed the green and the blue mix there, and they sort of smudge along in a different line. And that was really fun. So pretty much I'm just going horizontal, vertical, whatever sort of catches my eye as I'm going along, and just wiping the art wedge off with a baby wipe, which is quite easy. Now just having a look at where my photo is going to go. I'm liking that. Move the mixed media paper to the side, and I'm going to set on layering my photo. So just cutting down those two sides because the way it printed on my selfie made it a bit wide on that border. And I'm just going to work on, I wanted a bit of texture and some, not some depth to it, I guess. I was going to say bulk, but I guess, same kind of thing really. I wanted some height to it off that mixed media background so that it pops off the page. And I'm not going to go too heavy with anything else. Like, I could totally get the stamp out and stamp on that acrylic background. I could, put a few clusters here, there and everywhere, big title and whatnot. But I just wanted it to be concise to the photo and the area in the middle of the page, and then having the mixed media surrounding it, rather than the design going here, there and everywhere, which works for other times. So I'm just having to play with the Project Life size cards, and then these 4x6 size cards that have been cut down for us. I've got a layer of tulle. So first I've got the photo, then I've got that 4x6 card of all the stripes, then the tulle, then I've got the striped, like an exercise book lined paper that came from the packaging, and then I've got some of the 3x4 cards just randomly sat to the side. I did look at all the frames because we've got a lot of frames in the kit this month, and wondered if I wanted to have some sticking out from the sides or just popping out to get a bit of extra interest, but none of them were really catching my eye today, so they go back. And just having a play. Now oh my god, tulle I so much love, but really the only way to get it down, to get it to stick, is to put a million staples in it, and then you can't really stick anything on top. And so I was like, no, I could just stick this on. Surely that'll be fine. I've glued down that striped pattern paper behind the photo. Just going to cut down the tulle so there's not so much everywhere. And then I figured I could just use wet glue and stick it down. But of course, that doesn't work. That was just ridiculous of me. I'm going to cut this one down just so I can use it in 2 spots. So have that little border. I like the two-tone of the pink that brings. That's really nice, and just made sure it was in the right area. I didn't want it covering the tulle. That tulle layer needed to pop between the stripes and the pattern, the exercise book paper. So you can see the exercise paper has a ripped edge. The tulle is all ruffled, and the edges are wild as well. And then we have the straight edges of the pattern paper and these Project Life cards. So I think it's really nice to have that blend. Sometimes you can overdo it one way or the other, having all straight edges or all ruffled edges. So just putting them where I think. That one moved, if you didn't realise, it moved from the right to the left so that I could bring some more of that pink over and border that exercise paper. And here I'm going to cut open the ephemera packet little paper bag that we get the ephemera in, and that's going to be a big base layer to all of the goodies. Now here I'm adding some double-sided tape in vain, because why is it going to work through the tulle? I have no idea why I thought it would work last night when I did this. I was obviously on another planet. Instead, I work on gluing this down to the ephemera bag layer and then get to working on that later. And then I do eventually get it down, but it's just so funny sometimes when you know better and you just don't do better because you're, flustered or whatever in the moment. So I'm stapling that down. So I realized because I didn't want the staples showing on the photo. So what I did is I just lifted the corners of the photo and stapled that Project Life size card, the stripy one, down to the tulle layer and all the layers behind it. Did it on both sides and it worked perfectly. I don't know why. Sometimes you just have to take a little bit longer to get to the right answer, surely. I'm going to stick this one on, but just because I've already cut it down, it's the right colour. Better off putting it on this layer, on this layers, or the layers of the photo, rather than back in my scrap box or the kit box. Same with this one as well. Now I sort of felt like I would build up that right side. Sorry, excuse me. The right side rather than all the layers. So I've come back, I'm adding it to the paper just to see how it looks. I don't like the way the ephemera bag was sitting, so I just ripped some of those edges so that it's not so bulky and wide like excess. And here's where I realized that I didn't put enough paint on there and it didn't suit at all, and I needed to add all the way to the sides rather than focusing on the middle. So back in with the same technique, which is really good for you guys that can check it out and make sure you understand how it works and see how easy it is. Because it's one of those things that sometimes when you can look at a background and you go, wow, that's, I couldn't do that. That's too much. It's that random but looking purposeful as well. Or being purposeful but making it look random. That's how you want it. So you want it to look spontaneous, but that it all goes together like it was meant to be. That sometimes can be hard to replicate, even like all of us. We all have trouble with that. But you can see here, you're just putting, the good thing is 3 colours is a good combination, and you just have a play with it, go with it. This art wedge is so nice to hold and move. I'm so surprised. When I had it in the package, I was like, oh yeah, cool. This will be fun. They'll be helpful. And then I opened it and just touching it, I was like, oh my goodness, I want to hold this and use it all the time. It is so, it's just made really well, obviously. Vicki Boutin knows her stuff, and it was so delightful to use indeed. So now I'm just going to have a play while that dries a little bit longer. It doesn't take too long to dry, that acrylic paint, which is nice. So I'm going to add some fun foam or some foam tape to the back. I couldn't be bothered finding my fun foam. Did I mention it was late at night on a work night? And I put in that little circle frame here. So I'm going to pull that in there, and that's going to be the bases of my cluster. So just cutting a little bit out because I figure that would be nice to add somewhere later. Maybe even on this layout. If not, then I can get it somewhere else. Just adding some glue just because it's chipboard, and it's to make sure that it does stick there on all those layers. And that is a really cool thing. So I have no idea how I'm going to embellish my title or anything else. I just got to this point, and here's where I'm going to pull out all the goodies that we got. So I pull out these stickers here because I wonder whether I can have these as some titles. And here's where this design comes together. So I've got that happy there. And then I pull out one of the stickers from the cardstock sticker pack. And I'm going to have some words up the top in a descending line, I guess, a descending order. And they just add to the layers, but also add a lot of that that pop of media words and that kind of word art. Well, there's a word for that, isn't there? Surely. Anyway, we will not delve into the logics of words that will be here forever. So you can see here I've got my really useful box out. There's so much in there. Just going through the ephemera packs, or the words here is what I've got, because I separate labels, words, and icons out of the ephemera, and I found this tag that says hey you, and I figure I could get a tassel on here. Found the perfect colour. I'm going to use my twine, tie that there and attach it. I do glue it down a little, like a little bit of glue under the tassel, just so that it does stay there. I'm going to glue that down. Don't need to think too much about the cluster. If it's working, then don't overthink it. Don't look at all your other pieces and, you know, see if there's anything better. This is what is working because it made me, you know, it caught my eye. So there we go. That's stuck down. Just giving a little bit of a hold just to make sure it stays, because it is, I probably should put some fun foam under the top of it, but it's sitting there on that chipboard frame a little bit and the photo. So pulled out this little word as well. I'm going to put that down there. So we've got the 3 words happening up the top, and then we're going to have the little cluster here that cascades down the page a little bit. So you might be thinking, I just realized that this photo is just really random. It's a photo of a car in a semi-empty, I don't know if you can see any other cars in the car park, an empty car park. This is the first time I ever parked the car. So I am old, yes, I'm, you know, a mother of teenage children, or 10 or 11 and 13-year-old children, and I'm only just learning how to drive. So this was one of those moments that I was surprised that I could get it within the lines on the first go. Admittedly, there's no other cars around me, but I definitely had to take a photo for my album. So I thought this would be a good collection for these kind of photos where, you know, happy girl power, that kind of sentiment where it's like, yeah, you go girl. So that was a happy, nice little find when I was going through my album to find some photos to scrap. I've added a little heart here from the ephemera, exclusive ephemera, and I just use my glossy accents to cover that so that it does have that little glossy accent to it. Funny how that word, the words are, the name of it is exactly what you're looking for. And I'm looking for some of these puffy hearts to definitely add. I've got that camera there, which I pulled back, that ephemera camera that I was debating to have up the top of my photo. I'm just going to add some little sprinkles here. I do add some flower underneath that flower. I do go back and forth as to what flower that will be, because they are a little cute on the puffy little stickerness. And then, so as always, if you are not sure how it's looking, definitely hold up your paper so that you can see it at a different angle, or stand up, and that way you can see how it's looking all together rather than the way you're looking from the angle you're sitting. And I add some of these sequins for a little pop of bling, just the silver ones. Actually, that's a lie, I do add some. I did think originally just the silver, but I do end up adding some black. The black ones are big, so I tuck them in rather than having them whole like the silver ones were showing. But that's a little pop of interest as your eye goes around the page. Really nice to check that out. So you can see here, just popping that one underneath the tag. And then I was trying to work out how I would write a little bit of journaling. Now thinking about it, if it wasn't late at night, I probably could have just typed a sentence or two on the typewriter and cut it out and put it underneath that cluster. Would have been nice there. But this works really well as well. So I grab out one of the labels from the kit that we get in the exclusive cutter parts, and I'm just going to write the journaling on there and stick it down under that cluster. And that's just going to finish it. So a little bit more, and there's a little funny moment where I was a bit unsure how I was going to, I love the kit, but I was a bit unsure how I was going to use it. So at the end I have some little funny hand motions where I'm so excited that the page turns out well enough for my liking. Do want to add this little pendant here, but it doesn't fit, so back it doesn't stay there. Add another heart just because I wanted to have that cluster go down a little bit more than what the label was where it was. So putting that away, I'm thinking, yep, I'm done. I'm I'm going to add a doodly border, but what I do is I only do the 2 corners. So I go halfway to the page on this side, and then the opposite corner I go halfway there, and then halfway up the side. So it's sort of like a, what are they called? Like the frames, the little arrows, the corner pocket things, I guess. There's a name for them. We had them. Oh, there's my little funny hand moves. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video and this process today, and I hope it inspires you to get kitting and enjoying your scrapbooking. Have a good day, guys. Bye.